If you're just starting to learn how to code, you've probably heard of a development tool called Git. And if you don't know what that is, it's just a development tool that developers use to help build their code systematically and incrementally. And it's one of those tools that once you start using it as a developer, you can't not use it. You have to use it in all of your projects. And it's something that is so powerful that every company that I've worked for has used it, and it's so helpful for our projects and help us develop code as a team. And so using Git and learning how to use Git is really important, even in the early stages of your programming journey. Here's a post on the subreddit Learn Programming, and I really agree with this post. And the main idea here is that learning Git early will save you headaches. And one of the examples of why it would save you headaches is because it would really help you know which version of your code you're working on. So say if you're not using Git, these are some common issues you might run into as you're developing. You might forget what version you're working on. So maybe are you working on 0.3.4 or are you working on 0.3.5? You can't remember. But if you have Git, you can just look at the log and figure out what version of the code you're working on. And then another thing that Git will help you out in is fixing bugs. So if you have a bug that came into your program, you don't know when it happened or why it happened. But if you can revert to an older version where the bug is not there, you can do a comparison between your old version and your current version. And that will help you easily figure out right away what is causing the bug that's happening in your code. The real value of Git is shown more with more complex code bases, and that's because you can look at the commit history and see how that program was built over time. And it's also useful to have Git for these complex code bases because you don't want to break anything. And so it's really mature and it's really sophisticated, that code base. So if you do one small thing, you might break something. And it's really helpful to be able to revert back to a version where you know that everything is working, everything is stable. But I would say that it's really good to start using Git early, even for these simple projects, because it really gets you into the habit of using Git. And it's just part of the culture of being a developer. When you're going to be working with other programmers, they're probably going to use Git to collaborate together on a project. And so even if you're not employed in a company yet and you're just working on an open source project, for example, or if you want to work with some other developers, you're going to be able to work together by using Git together. So now you might be thinking, okay, Git is nice and I do want to learn it, but how do I start? And so this is what this video is for. I'm going to teach you about the setup process and then also how to create a repository and then start developing your code in that repository. So my name's Henrik and I'm here to help you learn the foundations of software development. So let's get started. By the way, if you're in the early stages of your programming journey, I've got a special gift for you. It's called my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a guide that will take you from no coding experience to building your first 4 projects. And the best part is it's free. It's a free gift to you. In this coding challenge, I guide you in 30 days to build 4 programming projects, and I give you some tutorials that are in C. But of course, these projects are really generic and really beginner friendly, and so you can actually code them in different programming languages. You can still benefit from this guide because you can just take the principles that are in my challenge and then apply them to your programming language. You can find the challenge in the link in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts that will give you a good foundation to your software development journey. All right, first things first is you want to install Git. So you just go to the Git website and then go to the installer. So I have a Mac, so I'm going to go here to download from Mac and install it. So I can just follow these instructions and install it. I already have it installed. This is what it looks like for Windows. So you can just click here to download, and then this is the executable for Windows. So you would just run this executable and install Git that way. For Linux and Mac, the Git website has some instructions here. So for example, for Mac OS, you can install it through the Xcode command line tools. And so that's probably where I would go if you don't have Git installed on your Mac. If you want to check if you've installed Git properly, you're going to want to open up Terminal, and this is just an application on your Mac or Linux. And if you have Windows, you're also going to want to install Git Bash. And once you have Git Bash, you can type in Terminal or Git Bash, you can type this command. So type git -- version, and then you'll see the version of Git that you have, and then you know that you've installed it correctly. For Windows, I believe that after you've installed Git properly, you're going to have Git Bash already. So you can just open Git Bash after you've installed Git, and then you can do the git -- version to check if Git is properly installed. Okay, so after you've installed Git and you know it's working, then you're going to want to go to github.com and create an account. And github.com just allows you to use Git. It's a web-based platform that allows you to create Git repositories and then upload your code there. And so you really need github.com, and a lot of other developers are going to use github.com. And you've probably heard of github.com, right? If you've been programming, you're going to hear about github.com eventually. So you go here to sign up, but I already have a GitHub account, so I'm just going to show you my GitHub. So here's the dashboard of my GitHub account. And if you want to see my repositories, you just click on your picture here and then go to your repositories. And then here you can see all the repositories of my account. All right, now I'm going to teach you how to actually create a project in GitHub and start development in your computer. So first you need to create a repository. So you just go here to new and then create a new repository. We're just going to name it, I'm going to call it Git practice because this is just a repository to help us practice using Git. And then you're going to make it public. You can also make it private, but for now, let's just make it public and so that you can see it. And then just scroll down to the bottom and then click create repository. So here's our project, this Git practice GitHub repository. And so if we want to do some development with it, we need to bring it into our local machine. And the way we bring it into our local machine is by doing something called a git clone. And you can do a git clone using HTTPS or SSH. And I have another video to explain how to use git clone with these two different methods. So check out that video. I'm used to using the SSH method, so I'm going to use SSH, and I'm going to just copy the link here. So this link here is how we access the repository. So it's just going to go to github.com, go to my account, and then it's going to go to this Git practice repo. So I'm going to copy this URL, and then I'm going to go to terminal, or if you're using Windows, you go to git bash, and then I'm just going to do git clone, and then I'm going to paste the URL. Okay, there you go. So now it says you appear to have cloned an empty repository. And that makes sense because we don't have anything in this repository right now. We don't have any files yet, so it's empty. So this warning is not really a warning. It's something that's expected. So this is the repository that I just cloned. So this Git practice, if you look inside, you do ls, you see that there's nothing inside. And that's consistent with the website. So this right here is called the remote repo or the remote repository because it's remote. It's in the website and it's on the internet. So we call this the remote repo. And then here in our local machine, we have a local repo. And this is because it's local to our computer. So we have a local repo. We've cloned the remote repo and we have a local repo here. So we can actually do git status to check on this. And so it tells us what branch we're on. We're on the main branch. And we have no commits yet. That means we haven't done anything yet with this repository yet. So the first thing that we want to do with this repository is add our code to it. So let's create some code. Let's write some code and then upload it to our remote repo. So in order to do that, we need to add it to our local repo first. And then we're going to push our local repo into the remote repo. So all the changes in our local repo that we do something called push, a git push, and then that's how the remote repo will reflect the changes that we've made in our local repo. So I'm just going to make a file called gitpractice.c. So I'm going to create a C program. So I have a gitpractice.c here, and then I'm just going to compile it just to make sure it works. Okay, there you go. So this code works. Now I want to add this to my remote repo, but first I need to add it to my local repo. So what I do is I do a git add, and then I put the name of the file, gitpractice.c. Oops, gitpractice.c. And then you do a git status. You can see that I'm creating a new file. So it says changes to be committed. We haven't committed this change yet to the local repo. This is a change that we're about to make. So this is called, we're staging this change. So we staged this new file. We're staging this new file, gitpractice.c. but we haven't put a.out in the repo itself. So this is considered an untracked file. So if you look at the files in this folder or in this directory, we have 2 files here. I don't want to put the executable into my repo. I only want to put the code in my repo. But it's really up to you. But for me right now, I just want to put in my code. So I think these changes are changes that I would like to commit. And so I'm just going to do git commit, and then I'm going to do -m to make my message. Okay, so now you notice if we do git status, it doesn't say anything about the new file anymore because we've committed it. And you can actually do git log, and then you can see here that this is a commit that we made. So we made this commit, and this is me, the author, and then this is the date that I made this commit. So you do git log, you can see what would happen, and this is the message that I put in earlier right here. And so this is the history or the commit history of this repo. So now everything's all good with my local repo. I've made some changes. I've added a file, so my initial file that I'm going to do development on. And so now I can do a git push, and I can push this change to my remote repository. So if I do git push, so this is how I push my main branch to the remote repo. So the main here comes from this main here. So this is the name of the branch. So the branch's name is main. So that's why I'm doing git push origin main. So if I do this, it will push it up to my repository. So it's creating a new branch called main. And then when I refresh this one here, the branch is going to show up. So the main branch is going to show up. And so there you go. So this is the main branch, and this is the file that I just added. This is the git commit message. So if you click on this file, then we can see our code here. And this is how you share your code with other developers so they can look at your code also. Now, before I finish the video, I'm just going to add another change. I want to do another commit just to reinforce this idea of how to make code changes incrementally in your program. So let's add something else to this file. All right, so I added this extra sentence here, and now I want to add this change into this git practice.c. So if you look at the git practice.c in the remote repo, that printf is not there. That statement isn't there. So I need to add this change that I just made to my local repo and then push those changes to the remote repo. So now I do git status. It notices that I modified this file. So all I need to do to stage it for a commit is I need to add it. So I'm just going to do git add git practice.c. Now we check the status again. Now it says that this is a change that you're going to commit. So if you do a commit, this is a change that you're going to commit. So let's actually commit it. Okay, now we do git status again. You see that the change is no longer being committed, and it says that your branch is ahead of origin main by 1 commit. So if you look at the git log here, you can see that we have 2 commits now. So we're ahead by 1 commit. If you look at the remote repository, and then you can see that we only have 1 commit in here. But if we want to put this commit in the local repo into the remote repo so that other people can see it, then we just do git push origin main. So now we pushed it to main. This is uploading our change. So if we refresh this one, okay, now our second commit is showing up here, and you just click on this and it actually tells you what was the change for that commit. And so this is how you can start to see how useful Git can be for managing and just doing some incremental development with your code. I think a common mistake that new beginners make when it comes to commits is that they don't know when to commit, or when is it a good time to commit a change. I've seen programmers who just code their whole program and then they just commit all of the changes that they did in that program. But that kind of defeats the point of using Git. You want to develop your code incrementally. So after you've made some milestone changes, after you've made a milestone change, like you've added a feature or you fixed a bug, like one of those things, if you do something significant, then you want to save your progress. And so you commit your progress and save it to the remote repo, just so that, say your computer gets destroyed, then your code is fine because it's already uploaded onto the internet. That's actually happened to me at least once before, where I would be doing some development, making good progress, and then I'm too lazy to save my file. It's kind of like when you're writing a paper at school. You're writing it and then you think, oh, I can just save it later. I'm just going to keep going. And so one time I just kept going, or maybe more than one time, I just kept going. And then I broke my code somehow. I don't know what I did to mess it up. And then I don't have any comparison to figure out which of these changes I've made broke my code. But if I had just saved my code incrementally as I was making changes, then I would make sure that the last version that I had was actually working correctly. Then I can compare my current changes with the last known working version of the code, and I can see what change did I make to insert or to create a bug in my code. So whenever you make a commit, you want to make sure that your code is at that state is in a working state. That doesn't mean that it's free from all bugs. That just means that you can at least compile it maybe, or you can have some basic functionality, that to the best of your knowledge, it's working properly. And so you want to make sure your code is in good condition whenever you make a commit, because say you're making some changes in the future and then you break something, you don't know what happened, you can always compare your current changes with the last commit, and then you can see which one of these changes broke my code. All right, so there you go. That's how you can start using Git in your workflow. And I really just wanted to help people start using Git because I know it's kind of intimidating. And I really appreciate my coworker who really walked me through Git. I actually had a couple of coworkers who really helped me understand how Git works. And it's really non-intuitive, sort of. But when you have someone working with you and going through it with you step by step, you can really see how you can start using it. And I really want people who are new programmers to really start using Git early. All right, like I mentioned earlier, if you're just starting off in your programming journey and you don't know where to start, you can download my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a 30-day guide where I teach you how to build those 4 beginner programming projects. It's really beginner friendly, and I go step by step on how to build each one and go through the tutorials that you need to build each one. So download that in the link in the description. All right, that's it for this week's video. I hope it really helped you out and really helped you start using Git in your workflow. And if you have any other Git questions or any other programming questions in general, feel free to let me know in the comments section and I'll be sure to answer you there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.